Psalm 8:2. Out of the mouth of babies and infants you have established strength because of your foes, to still the enemy and the avenger. Again, we notice the psalmist is speaking directly to the Lord. You have established strength. Established is the idea of setting something that is firm. It is a done deal when we think about being established. And God has established his strength. He's not in the process of establishing his strength. He's not hoping that his strength is going to be established, but God has in fact established his strength. He has showed how strong he is, and it is unquestionable at this point. He has done it. Why? Well, because of his foes, those who are against him, his enemies, those who seek to do harm and to oppose him, and to steal the enemy and the avenger. This word here, steal, right? This is not steal, but it is still, and it is to set still. It is to immobilize. It is to put in place and to contain and maintain the enemy and the one who avenges the avenger. Now, notice specifically, this is the interesting part in Psalm 82. Notice how God does this. We might think that one would establish strength with an army. One would establish strength with weapons of warfare, weapons of destruction. We would think that one would establish strength by conquering. But notice so interestingly that God establishes strength not by any of those means, but He does it out of the mouth of babies and infants. Now that ought to surprise you. God establishes his strength because of his enemies, because of his foes. He steals the enemy out of the mouth of babies and infants. Now, if you know babies and infants, you know that babies and infants don't say words. They simply utter sounds and noises. But God uses those babies and those infants in such a magnificent way that He is able to establish His strength in the face of His enemies through them. We think about Jesus wanting the little children to come to Him. We think about so often just how God uses children and babies, how He uses toddlers and nursing infants to establish just how strong and how mighty He is, to establish His glory. Charles Spurgeon, in his commentary on the Psalms, tells the story of the 18th century evangelist George Whitefield, and who Whitefield was not well received because of the truth that he preached, and was not well received in churches. And so he tells this story. Whitefield said one time in one of his letters, "I cannot help adding that several little boys and girls who were fond of sitting round me on the pulpit while I preached, and handed to me people's notes, though they were often pelted with eggs, dirt, thrown at me, never once gave way, but on the contrary, every time I was struck, turned up their little weeping eyes, and seemed to wish they could receive the blows for me. God make them, in their growing years, great and living martyrs for Him who, out of the mouth of babes and sucklings, perfects praise." Just think about the way that these babies and these infants sitting there watching the great evangelist preaching before hundreds and thousands, even being pelted with eggs and tomatoes and whatever else they could get their hands on to throw at him in persecution. These children would continue to sit there and continue to listen and continue to watch. God uses children to establish His strength, and my prayer is that God would use your children and my children to declare His glory all across the earth, to the ends of the earth even.